Hello, football fans. This is Danny Austin. This is the live from the 55 podcast here from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We're recording this here on Wednesday, dropping it on Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us and being with us. Big week. We've got Gerry Moddejonge from the Edmonton Sun and Edmonton Journal, my colleague up there. It's a bit of a weird week in the CFL. The Stampeders are on a bye week. A couple other teams are on a bye week. So I figured with Edmonton playing Ottawa, why not focus on arguably the worst game of the season? Also just ask kind of Gerry what's going on up there in Edmonton, because it's been a terrible start to the season. And I think a lot of us, myself included, we're sort of expecting a little bit more. So wanted to check in with him, get that perspective on Edmonton. We're not going to do the whole Calgarian reporter hating on Edmonton thing, because I don't hate on Edmonton. I'm just excited to talk to my friend and talk a little bit about the Elks, see what he's expecting this weekend, see what he's expecting from the rest of the season. We're also going to have John Bender, who's dropping in partially because John Bender asked me if I wanted to use some of his memorabilia to decorate our studio, which podcast listeners won't be able to see, but it has been a work in progress as we have sort of tried to figure out everything with this podcast and this YouTube show. But we've got some new, studio decorations coming in. So I'm excited. John's bringing that stuff in. I don't think we're going to do sort of like a live reveal of our new decorations. That doesn't seem like a particularly interesting piece of audio, but John Bender is going to be here. So we're going to get into it here. But before we do, I would be remiss if I did not start here by talking a little bit about Dan Carson. Obviously, this is a Calgary-based podcast. We try to do things a little bit national, but we're still based in Calgary. My job is covering the Stampeders and the Flames, but mostly the Stampeders for the last 7 years. Dan Carson predates me by a long time. This guy was a public address announcer at all the Stampeders games for the last 31 years. He was 6 years old and died this week. Just really sad. And I don't really have a lot more to add. Dan is not, I'm not going to sit here and say we were best friends, but he was always a guy who I enjoyed seeing at the stadium. Always, had a big smile on his face, was always really kind, especially when I was getting started. And, it was just part of the fabric of Canadian football here in Calgary. I know we did a lot of work with the Dinos as well. And I think that for a lot of fans, he was the voice that you heard. He was a part of the experience of going to the stadium. And, I think he's really just going to be sadly missed. He was also, on local radio, member of Country 105's Odd Squad morning team for a number of years, had a family. There's a lot more to him than just sort of his work, and was sons, Matthew and Kyle, former wife Tracy. Ultimately, I don't really know what else to say beyond it was just really, really shocking and sad to hear that news, and our thoughts are with Dan's family and friends and everyone who was lucky enough to know him. He was an important part of our community, and just grateful for all that he did. So thank you, Dan. We miss you. Anyways, we're going to move on and kind of talk about this weekend in the CFL. Technically, you'd call it a slow weekend on the schedule. Stampeders are off. That would normally mean that I was off, but I have the show now, so I'm not off. And I also cover the Calgary Flames. So this is actually a really, really busy week for me. So it's great that they are off. It means that I have a little bit of time to focus on the other parts of my job and not go completely crazy. But the Riders, who impressed me a lot last week against the Stampeders, and the Ticats, who have absolutely not impressed me at all at any point this season, they are all off on bye weeks, meaning we only have 3 games. Normally, as I said, that would look like just punch the microphone. Hope that wasn't terrible. Normally you would say that's slow weekend. It is not. Honestly, I love these 3 games. Elks Red Blacks first up, I believe, on Friday. We're going to be chatting with Gerry Moddejonge, just to repeat myself about that one. Honestly, this has potential. Like, these are the 2 worst teams in the league. The Elks haven't won at home forever. Fortunately, they're on the road against the Red Blacks, who are pretty terrible at home themselves, have been for a long time. So just a real cracker of a game on Friday night, the type of thing you stay in for. Make sure that you devote your full attention to it. But I love it. I love a terrible CFL game, and there's chance for all sorts of chaos to happen. Gonna be fun. One of these teams has to win, unless they don't, in which case they tie. And I love CFL ties. Covered a couple of them in Ottawa. But yeah, terrible game that should be a little bit of fun nonetheless. And then we've got the Bombers Alouettes, which, let's be honest, I don't think any of us would have had this game circled on our calendar at all. A couple weeks ago before the season, even to be perfectly honest with you, a week and a half ago. But now the Bombers are coming off this pretty brutal stumble against the BC Lions last weekend. Suddenly, this sort of team that's been in the Grey Cup 3 years in a row, won 2 of them, looked absolutely invincible coming out of the gate this year. Well, they lost. People have questions. Oh, their O-line's looking a little bit old, stuff like that. It was one game. I am not overreacting to it. I absolutely promise you that. They are still the Bombers. If I was a betting man, which I am not, I would put my money on them being in the Grey Cup. But, there are questions. That's all I'm saying. There are questions, and they're going up against an Alouettes team who, I love admitting how wrong my predictions were. I had to stop making predictions altogether because I look like an idiot. But I thought the Alouettes were going to be absolutely terrible this year, and they're 2-0. Who would have thought that between the Alouettes and Bombers in week 4, the Alouettes would be the undefeated team? So, in the same way that last week was a real prove it game for the Lions, and they did prove it and sort of, stake their claim as being the early season front runners, I think the Alouettes can go out and really show that they're for real with a win here. That's the beauty of playing the Bombers. If you win, people start taking you a lot more seriously. So curious, that's going to be a fun game. And normally I'd say maybe the game of the weekend, except then you got the Lions and the Argos, and this is the Grey Cup champion. Toronto Argonauts have looked great in 2 games. Maybe not great against the Elks, but very good. They're 2-0. They're going up against the story of the season. As I said, the Lions, this team somehow lost Nathan Rourke and Brian Burnham in the offseason, and they just look like they haven't missed a step. Beating the Bombers, beating the Stampeders. I should know who they made in week 2, but it was, they shut out the Elks 22-0. That was crazy. So, this is a top team in the West versus top team in the East, as far as I can tell. And who doesn't like that? That's that game goes Monday. Legitimately, I'm really excited about it. So it's, this weekend's slate of games, as I was saying. It's a bit of a different schedule. 3 teams on bye weeks. A lot of people are going to be out at the cottage, out at the cabin, out on the mountains, out at the lake. But if you are at home, you do have a TV with access to, the broadcast partner TSN. I think that there's actually stuff that's worth watching this weekend. It should be fun. Beyond that, the big news this afternoon, Hamilton Tiger Cats Chris Edwards was fined but not suspended for his shove on Austin Mack at the end of last weekend's game. I will say I had Jeff Hamilton on Monday's show, and we had like the friendliest, I can barely call it a debate. It was just 2 guys talking. But for those who don't know, Chris Edwards basically, faked a handshake and then shoved Austin Mack. Austin Mack fell down. My opinion, it was gutless. It wasn't a cool move. It wasn't the type of thing that we want to encourage in the league by any means, but I don't know that a shove merits a suspension. If he had, clocked him right in the jaw, obviously a different story. I think Chris Edwards has a bit of a reputation as a hothead. Was involved in an incident with some fans back in the East Final in 2021, which isn't great. But for me, it's a shove. I'm not that mad about it. It's the maximum fine. You suspend him. He's just going to appeal it. But I'm not that mad about this. I'm glad that he got something, obviously. But I think there's a little bit of a line that he didn't quite cross, despite looking like an absolute idiot. So, that's that. We got lots to talk about. We got John Bender here, so let's get to it. But before we do, I also do very quickly want to thank our sponsor, Fraser and Fig. Can't do this without them here in Marda Loop. These guys do cheese, charcuterie boxes. They're curated with local and artisanal ingredients. Didn't read that line very well, but they've got 4 sizes, every occasion. I've told this story, but I did have a picnic a couple weeks ago. It was a delightful time. Grabbed a little white wine, drank it in a park. Bought one of these charcuterie boxes. As their website says, it came with meat, cheese, dried fruit, fresh fruit, nuts, olives, pickles, carrots. I looked very good bringing that charcuterie box. The person was like, wow, you really know what you're doing here. I don't. I just went to Fraser and Fig. That's even people who do know what they're doing. I'm not saying that they wouldn't love it, but really appreciate what they do. Appreciate them being a sponsor. Thanks. Let's get to John Bender. All right, John Bender. You've been on before. I never know exactly how to introduce you. How do you want me to introduce you?
Sure. Usually what they do when I was on the radio or whatever is just University of Nevada alum and Calgary Stampeders alumni.
Perfect. Okay. So University of Nevada alum and Calgary St. Peter's alumni brought along a couple, a 2014 Calgary St. Peter's Grey Cup champion. Grey Cup, it's rules. Have you ever done a shot out of it?
I have not. I've drank out of the actual Grey Cup. That was pretty enjoyable.
When
I
was
was at
that?
2014 and 2018. I knew quite a few guys on the team when they won. So when they were making their rounds, I just popped by and said hi to a few guys, and had to see how the celebration was.
Yeah, Alex Singleton actually forced me in 2018. I was trying to pay and get out of a bar where I was having lunch. And Singleton's mom had warned me that they were coming, so I was trying to pay quickly, but I didn't get out quickly enough. So they did force me, him and Brandon Smith, to do a shot.
I think one of those things people don't realize is that Grey Cup holds like 2 liters of beer. So when they fill that thing up, they can't really go anywhere until it's gone.
Oh,
So
true.
sometimes they're recruiting a lot of people to this. It's been days. Like I remember I saw them at the Flames game in 2018, and they took them up there to the concourse. One of the beer vendors on the concourse filled that thing right to the brim. And these guys barely have voices. They've been going for 3-4 days straight. So they saw me walking by and said, "We need some help."
Nice. How much
Yeah.
did you get down?
I don't. I didn't get the whole 2 liters for sure, but I put a dent in it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, there are stories we can't tell. There are stories we can't. I feel like that's an all right one.
Yeah.
I saw you. We ran into each other at Stamp's house. You were at the game on Saturday. General takeaways, pretty tough game to revisit, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was some good and some bad, some things that we could look forward to. Maybe McMahon Stadium. I think we all saw what the difference of having an extra 7,000 people in the house does, and
It was awesome. The crowd
if
was
we
great.
get some attendance in that 20 to 25 range, a little bit higher, I think that will be a lot better game day experience for everyone. And I think we saw, a team with the Stampeders that certainly has lost a few weapons on offense. If we went into the season and we said they wouldn't have their top 3 or 4 guys on offense that they were expecting to get big yardage, big touchdowns, big plays from, I think that we'd be pretty disappointed, and that's kind of where we're at. So this will be an opportunity for some other guys to step up, but it was tough to see a loss there. They had an opportunity to win, but we'll see what happens here down the stretch with the rest of the games.
Yeah, I think there's a balance. I mean, I've had honestly emails that are angry with me and emails that have sort of acknowledged, like, it's easy for fans to say, "Oh, next man up," and repeat what the players and the coaches say. The reality is, like, when you're talking about a Reggie Begelton, more specifically a Malik Henry, who was their top receiver last year and has torn his Achilles tendon, that's typically a 1-year injury. That's not just the end of the season. That's going to disrupt his offseason training, all of that. Kadeem Carey, Diedrich Mo's done a great job, but Jalen Philpott, I mean, like, there's not always a next man up of that caliber when we're talking about the skill positions or really any position.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that the CFL is unique in that, like, you don't go into the first round and draft a, franchise altering player. Kind of all the guys are kind of waiting in the wings and waiting for their opportunity. And a lot of the guys have, been practicing for 3-6 games. Some of the guys may have been around for a year, kicking around practice rosters, and now they finally got their chance. So there won't be any guy in the wide receiver corps saying that they didn't get a shot this year. So, they'll have lots of opportunity, lots of reps, and I mean, they did bring in some young guys at wide receiver. I mean, I think that they would really like to have Philpott back right now because he'd be another young guy they'd be looking for. But between Rice and John and Cole Tucker and some of the other,
Clark Barnes,
Clark Barnes,
those guys are starting now. Those guys are starting now.
They're going to get all the reps, so this will be kind of a sink or swim model for them, and hopefully they can develop quickly and they'll get an opportunity to run with it.
When Malik went down, some fan was like, said the next man up thing. And again, it bothers me a little bit when anyone not on the team says next man up. In a way that I guess to articulate it, I just don't. It's if you're out there on the field and you say next man up, I don't think it's disrespectful to the player who got hurt. But if you're just like, oh, next man up, it almost devalues the contributions and of some of these guys when you haven't played or don't play, which is very silly, and I recognize that, but it's kind of just always bugged me. But someone said, "Oh, next man up," and the thing is, they only have one more man to go up in their receiving group, which only Tommy Lee Lewis. They didn't keep anyone else around coming out of training camp. So, great, next man up, but they are one injury away from literally not having any more receivers.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's been a steady workout, every day or two at McMahon Stadium this week with some different guys they've flown in. But I mean, as a former football player, I mean, we all knew it was one play away from the next opportunity, and everybody's been a backup, and everybody's, they played and they were a starter. They knew. I mean, a lot of guys, they come back from injuries quick because they're so concerned that they're going to lose their spot because the next guy who got the opportunity gets to run with it. I mean, there's been plenty of opportunities we've seen from that. You look at this, from the Stampeders alone. Like, when did Jake Merritt get to play?
Yeah.
When Bo Levi Mitchell was banged up. And now that, now who's the starting quarterback? Now who's the guy there? And I mean, yeah, you can put plenty of arguments for other positions and other things going on, but sooner or later, everybody gets banged up. And then, what's the backup able to do? And if they're able to make some big strides, maybe they'll be the guy moving forward.
I said this on Monday's show, but for me, the Riders at least showed me. I don't know that they showed me that they can compete with the very best teams in the league right now, but they showed me that sort of some of that like negative energy that was surrounding the team. Like, they fought, they stuck together. Like, they impressed me in that regard in that game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that they showed a lot, that they fought, that they stuck around. They got some talented wide receivers there. Some young guys like MLS have really been stepping up. And, if they can, continue to get better in the trenches, I was always worried about them and there, whether it's the O-line and D-line and what they're able to do. And we've talked about this before, that Trevor Harris isn't going to, light the world on fire. But if he can do enough to, manage some games and get them ahead, then, they have a chance to, this will be a dogfight here for that third place in the West. Right now, it looks like it's shaping up as Winnipeg and BC is kind of two of the best teams in the league, if not the West. And now everybody wants to see what's going to happen here with that third playoff spot. Obviously, lots can change. There's lots of seasons left. Everybody's always one play away from an injury that changes a lot of things. And unfortunately for the Calgary Stampeders, they've been the team that's been really bit by the injury bug early, and we'll see what happens here from the rest of the season.
Well, my last sort of thing on the Stampeders would be like, this is something Dave Dickinson said. He said, like, what's unusual about it is it really is the skill positions right now, and those guys just don't. I mean, not that offensive linemen or defensive linemen do, but those are sort of areas where you anticipate a couple injuries throughout the season, but you just don't anticipate 3 of your starting 5 receivers not being available 3 weeks into the season long term.
Yeah, and I mean, often with those positions, it's often like the soft muscle tissue injuries, like they pull a hamstring, they have something like that going on. A lot of these guys are getting surgeries, or they're getting big injuries.
Achilles is as bad as it gets.
Yeah. ACL, Achilles, any of those is shut down. But I don't know if you remember, I believe it was the 2015 season, but they had 2 offensive linemen break their legs in one drive.
I do remember that.
In one drive, 2 offensive linemen carted off. And those
That's
guys.
when Quinn Smith had to go play O-line, right? Yeah, a D lineman.
6 to 8 weeks, 2 O linemen gone. And I mean, finding a guy that's 6'7", 300 and can stop other 300-pound men is a little bit more challenging, I think, than finding a wide receiver. So from that side of things, I think that they'll have an opportunity to bring in lots of guys that maybe they had a long look at training camp, they want to get back, or maybe pluck somebody off a practice roster off another CFL team, or maybe they look into the trades and see what they can find there.
And I do want to quickly say to anyone from Saskatchewan who is listening and is just like seething right now because I'm not acknowledging that the Riders are also incredibly banged up. I do acknowledge that. It's just I cover the Stampeders and John's a Stampeders alumni. That's going to be our focus. But like the Riders do have a ton of injuries, and it was really impressed. John, what is your Canada Day plan so that I can ask you about the weekend? Because I don't want to be, if you're out at a cabin, like there's no, I don't want to.
No, I'm not at a cabin or anything like that. One of my buddies has a place. He's up on the hill there by the Saddle Dome, and they're going to set off the fireworks there. So he's got a group of, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 of us is going to get together, probably see how a couple drinks taste, and see how the fireworks look. And I think that'll be a good weekend. What do you guys got going on?
It's NHL free agency on Monday or on Saturday opening. So this is a work weekend for me, and I'm not at all resentful about it. I don't wish that I was going to jump in a lake and go hiking. Drink a bunch of beers.
Are they ever going to change that? Wasn't there chatter about that moving to July 4th or something, or the Monday after?
I mean, wouldn't that be great? But
that would,
yeah,
I mean, it would make sense.
Do that instead of eliminating Pride nights, guys. But I will say, I mean, Edmonton, Ottawa, I've got Gerry Moddejonge coming on later, and like that game is hilarious. It's been a while since we had this like just terrible a matchup, but like both Winnipeg and Montreal, and then BC and Toronto are like low key, quietly, just great games
matchups. Yeah, we were chatting about this actually. So we have a big CFL group chat you're a part of. Yeah. And one of the ideas we always had was, why don't you get the Grey Cup champ from the year before to play at Ottawa on Canada Day?
That'd be awesome.
I mean, I feel like that's just like low-hanging fruit type stuff where, this is opportunity to come there and, show what's going up. And maybe that's opportunity for them to give them some sort of special,
Yeah.
Pride of Canada sticker, coin, whatever it is
Yeah.
to do on that day. That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, I think the BC Toronto has got to be the matchup of the weekend that everybody will be looking at, and I'm excited to see what they can do there. I'm excited to see if big play VA can do what he's been doing. I mean, he did it against the Bombers defense. Now
Yeah.
can he do it against the Argos defense?
That's the thing. Like, I may still think that the Bombers are my Grey Cup favorite, but like the Lions and Argos have earned the right. That's the biggest game of the weekend. It's
Absolutely.
the best team in the West, and I mean, like, the best team in the East. Although Montreal has weirdly acclaimed to being the best team in the East as well.
They've been playing well.
Yeah.
They've been playing really well. I've been really impressed with with their quarterback play there with Cody Fajardo. They've been able to run the football as well. That's a team that could be sneaky, and they might be a team that hangs around, and maybe if they hit their stride, they could be a team that knocks off the Argos in the East later on in the year.
Well, and I mean, my feeling is, I mean, what does hanging around look like when you have Ottawa and a Hamilton team that appears to have just gone completely off the rails in your division? I mean, second place, you just 500 is going to comfortably get you into second place.
I mean, I think we all have to believe that Hamilton's got to come around a little bit sooner or later. I mean, it's been a tough start for them out the gates. I don't think anybody thought they'd be 0-3. I know a lot of people were hoping and thought that they would have a good shot of, playing in the Grey Cup in Hamilton, which I know that's when they were in free agency, that's what they were trying to do, it seemed. So we'll see what they can do, see if Bo Levi Mitchell can get healthy, see what they can get from Schultz in the meantime, and see if they can get some better play on defense as well.
With a more educated eye, like, what is the thing that's wrong with that Hamilton team?
They just haven't. So when Bo Levi Mitchell was in there, his numbers weren't great. He wasn't able to push the ball downfield. It seemed like Schultz had a better job doing that last week, and they just need to do a better job maintaining and elongating drives. It seemed like they were always kind of sputtering on offense. It seemed like they left there, and then the defense gets tired. The defense, was opportunistic against Winnipeg. They got 3 or 4 turnovers there early, but you can't leave the defense on the field the whole game either, and that's going to be tough on them. So I think that they just need to kind of find their identity. They brought in a lot of different players, and they're going to have to find out what's a solution that fits there.
And we're just going to go back to finish to a text conversation we had, but this directly relates to the Stampeders.
Yes.
When you were at Nevada, you guys averaged 350 yards a game on the ground?
That's right. So in 2008 and 2009, I believe we were the number 1 rush team in the nation. In 2010, we finished top 3 or 4.
Yeah. I mean, what's the secret? What can Dave Dickinson learn from you right now that all his receivers are injured?
There's a few things. You need a Colin Kaepernick at quarterback.
Okay.
That helps. Yeah. You get the read option going.
Yeah.
Makes it tough for, you can leave one of the DNs. And
Is he available?
Yeah. I mean, potentially, I don't know. It could be one of those things you got to look into with the salary cap. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so that is something you could look at. We ran the pistol offense in Nevada, and we ran the ball down people's throats all day long. And I mean, you saw the stats I sent you. There was over 50 rushing touchdowns. One year we had over 3 1,000-yard rushers.
It's nuts, to be honest. Yeah.
I would say video game numbers, but we always said it was almost better. I mean, we're averaging 7 yards a carry a lot of times with some backs that put up 1,500 plus yards. So yeah, we did a lot of good things there.
It's amazing. Kadeem Carey should be back in a couple weeks. You got Dedrick Mills. Hopefully Peyton Logan is okay. I'm just saying. It's an option. Stampeder should look at it.
I mean, with a guy like Tommy Stevens, they could do a lot.
That's true.
They could really lean on that run game, especially in the red zone. When Tommy Stevens came in, we saw what was his yards per carry. I think he was 5-6 yards per carry. We saw him in a game last year have 4 carries for 150 yards. You can really get defenses into a jam with some guys like that are just tough matchups. You get a quarterback that's 6'6", 250 on the edge against a corner who's 180 pounds. What do you think's going to happen? He's going to run over him, run through him, do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they can do more of that stuff around the goal line and short yardage, I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I think that, and we're getting various Stampeders, like we're talking about the backup quarterback, so I'm sure non-Calgary people hate us, but like, I think that they need him to start throwing the ball a little bit so that defenses aren't completely anticipating it. But they did that 2 quarterback set at the start of the second half, and it worked
for sure.
Like the second the defense was not completely ready for what was happening, Tommy Stevens is just a big man who can truck through guys.
Sure. And we've seen teams in the CFL that did great with this before. We saw the Blue Bombers in 2019 with Chris Strevler. Yep. What they were able to do, that was the whole reason they beat the Stamps in the playoffs. Stamps had no answer for it. When they got into the big sets with Strevler and he could run the ball down people's throats. And I mean, you get some big running backs back there. It's a lot. It wears down a defense. You got to bring down 200+ pound running backs, quarterbacks 25 times a game. It's going to add up.
All right, John, man, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for lending us again sick Grey Cup. We got a Stampeder's hat, or sorry, helmet, not mini helmet. It joins our James Wilder Jr. Get Wilder hat that was given to me at the 2018 Grey Cup. I don't know if it was given to me or if you just forgot to ask for it back. we had some weird memorabilia here. We're gonna get some stuff in the background too. But man, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. You are the best. I appreciate you.
All right, for sure. Thank you.
Cheers. All right. Thank you to John Bender for stopping by. Bender again, University of Nevada, Calgary, Stampeders alum, buddy of mine who, I don't know, we often have a little bit of food together at the Stamps house before games. Just, really smart, knowledgeable guy and understands parts of football that I don't, and I don't think most most people do because he's played at such a high level. So thank you to him. Again, brought to you by Fraser and Fig. If you're looking for cheese or charcuterie, come by Marteloup, stop by their shop. They've got ready to go cheese charcuterie boxes curated with local and artisanal ingredients. They got 4 sizes, every occasion, including my picnic a few weeks back. The boxes all come with meat, cheese, dried fruit, fresh fruit, nuts, olives, pickles, and carrots. No joke. Check these guys out, man. Fraser and Fig. Thank you to them for sponsoring us, and we're bringing John Bender in. So, yeah, next up we got Gerry Moddejonge. We haven't really talked a lot about the Elks so far on this podcast. I don't know, this is like about the 7th episode or something like that. We mostly haven't talked about the Elks that much because they're not very good, is the reality. And it's more interesting up top and trying to figure out who is great versus trying to figure out why the Elks are getting shut out, or their quarterback situation is a mess and all of that stuff. So, but the Stamps have a bye week. The Riders have a bye week. The Ticats have a bye week. Why not chat a little bit about the Elks, try to get an idea of what's going on? Just take a measure of the general vibes there in Edmonton, because I think that we were all really excited to see them bring in so many people to that first game. It was well over 30,000 for their home opener. Great crowd, and I don't think that the performance on the field should take away from some really cool things that are being done by that organization. And at the same time, they got to win a game at home. It's been a long time, and I don't know. I deal with it. The Stamps have won a lot at home over the last little while. Not so much the last couple seasons, but over the last decade. And every time they lose at home, I hear way more about it than when they lose away. So it's important that you keep your home fans happy. The Elks have not done a great job of that. So let's cut to Gerry Moddejonge here. Let's hear what he's got to say about it. One of my favorite dudes in the industry. Really excited to have him on. All right, guys. The man, the myth, the legend, Gerry Moddejonge. Buddy, how are you?
I'm better now. I've never been called that before.
The man, the myth, the legend?
Yeah.
I know. I've never called anyone that before. I don't know why I said it, to be honest.
Whatever you got planned, I'm in.
No, I don't. I'm still learning. Like, this is a very new show. I don't know if anyone, how many people are listening, but I'm just kind of making it up, and I guess that's part of my shtick, is just saying man, myth, legend. How are you? How are the Edmonton Elks?
Wow. Let's get right to it. They're here. Let's put it that way. They're present and accounted for, and okay, you know what? I'll give you one example of where the Edmonton Elks are. So I walk into the locker room after loss number 3 of the season, 7 in a row, and 19 in a row at home. This was on Sunday, 41 to, with 5.5 minutes left, it was still 41 or 43-17. Edmonton ended up getting a couple of quick TDs in garbage time with their 3rd string QB in, and ended up making it a lot closer on the scoreboard than it should have been. But hey, you know what? Good for him. The kid did his job. He did it, made the most of his opportunities. But back to my point, I walk into the locker room, and guys are mad. Guys are ticked off. Besides those 2 TDs where Toronto was backed up playing, just whatever, just don't let him in the end zone sort of thing, just giving him yards and stuff. I mean, it was. At one point I thought it was going to be a scoreless half, which would have been what, given the 22-0 shutout the week before, it would have been 6 of 8 quarters that the Elks would have got shut out in offensively, and just a mess. So, anyways, guys are all ticked off, throwing pads into their locker stalls, and I go up to one guy, and we'll just keep his name out of it. And he just looks at me, and I'm like, "Hey, man, you got a minute?" And he's like, basically, what it boils down to, he said, "I would rather get fined by the league than have to talk to you right now." And I said, "Fair enough." So, Danny, they're mad. They're angry, which is a lot further ahead in the process, I guess, than where they ended off last year, when it's just like another loss, and we knew we were out, and here we go. It's, it is what it is, and they just don't care. So that's where they are. I'll give them that much, that they still want to do better. And is it too late at this point? Maybe even. It probably definitely is if they go into Ottawa Friday and lose there to arguably the worst team in the league. I guess we'll find out which one is.
It's amazing that the other 2 games this weekend are like Winnipeg and Montreal. Like,
yeah,
an undefeated Montreal against a Winnipeg that's stumbling. Fascinating. Like, can make
perfect.
the argument 2 of the top 4 teams, and then Toronto and BC, like probably the 2 best teams in the league right now. And then we have Ottawa and Edmonton. And I don't want to do the thing where I'm being like the Calgary reporter who was just making fun of Edmonton, because like I really want, I'd like the Elks to be better. I think we all need the Elks to be better. But
Danny, they're the punchline of this town already. There's nothing you can say that would pile onto them any worse than they do themselves. They're a joke. I can't walk up and talk to anybody who asks me what I do and mention the Elks and not have them be like, "How long has it been since they won here?" It's just, everybody knows them. They couldn't tell you what years the 5 in a row were anymore unless they were football fans. But everybody in the city knows them as the walking punchline. And it's.
Can I just interrupt really quickly, because I just want to acknowledge that I did this. I tried to drink a sip of my water and I didn't take the cap off. So anyone watching this on YouTube is going to be able to see me do that. I'm the Edmonton Elks of podcast hosts.
Yeah. Yes. Well, obviously, because you invited me on. So
I can't believe I got you on.
Because I'm so busy. Danny, this has been 2 years and 1/6 of the way into year 3 now. I'm basically writing Elk stories by filling in the blanks from the same thing I've written the previous.
But you're saying, hey, I want to I'm going to try to force some positivity. It is positive, because last year, from the start of the year, we knew they were going to be a trash fire, and it didn't seem like anyone was overly upset about it. It was sort of accepted that this is part of the Chris Jones process. So I guess the fact that in year 2 we expected them to be better and they're not is a problem, but at least they're emotionally invested. I do think there's something there. I'm reaching, but
okay. You know what? I don't know if it makes it better or worse at this point, Danny, but their defense has been something to watch. Up until Toronto hung 43 points on them, they're only allowing under 20 points a game, 1 touchdown per game. I mean, it was something. If the offense could have held up half their end, they would have been in these games. And I don't know what it is. We saw in season opening game against Saskatchewan, they got obviously stuffed on the goal line. 3 downs to punch it across and get the go-ahead TD in the dying minutes. And then, this week it was, the biggest thing since sliced bread in free agency to come in here, and Eugene Lewis is supposed to be the difference maker, right, for this young QB, supposed to make things all a lot easier on Taylor Cornelius. And what does he do? He drops a ball at the 1 yard line. I don't know what it is about Commonwealth Stadium. They can't win there. They apparently have trouble getting it past the curtain of the goal line. Congrats to you on trying to be positive, but there is there is something going on. I don't know what it is. It's just a mess. And I don't know how they fix it.
I mean, what were they doing not getting some sort of veteran quarterback in?
Well, who was around? The guy from Hamilton, Evans.
Yeah,
he was available. They weren't going to go get Bo. No offense to you guys down there, but that was just not going to fly. And to their credit, what we've seen from Bo already, that it was the right decision not to go after him. I don't know who else is around. They threw their money at Taylor Cornelius, so he didn't chase a spring league contract. Because where else do you go out and find a 6'5", 230-pound guy who can fire at the length of the field? Not accurately, but he can. It's hands were tied, I guess. You know what? To their credit, they did come out and find Jared Dagey and brought him in, and he impressed as much as he got a chance to against second, third stringers in the preseason. But he looked calm and composed out there. Way too early in the process to deem him the answer or not. But hey, at least it's something.
Last year they also found the current Stampeders starting left tackle. They just cut him. Demery. And then he just hung around Edmonton. The guy, he's a Florida international. I don't know if you know this guy's story.
I don't.
He played at Florida International. I don't know if he's a Florida guy. And who knows? Does the CFL have? Oh yeah, okay. He's from Georgia. It's good that they have where the players are from. No stats, but where they're from. But yeah, he played at Florida International, was up with the Elks, got cut last year, just stayed in Edmonton, and then wrote the Stampeders strength and conditioning coach in March and was like, hey man, can I come down for a tryout? They said sure. And he came down and he's now their starting left tackle.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So good on Chris Jones for that. Is he in the hot seat?
Come on. Chris Jones would have had that guy playing cornerback halfway through the year. So good on that guy for getting out.
I love the energy you're bringing right now, man.
I feel bad for Chris. Don't get me wrong. I'm not piling on the guy. I've seen proof positive. I've had a front row seat, Danny, in what the guy can do and how he can turn things around.
Yeah.
Of course, back then he had a franchise quarterback under his wing, right? These guys are now in danger of going 0-4 for the first time since 2010 when Danny Machocha was fired 5 weeks into the season. So that
should beat the Red Blacks.
Danny, they're on a short week. They're on a short week. Ottawa's coming off a bye. Edmonton has to travel out east. They're behind the gun on that one. It's going to be all they can do to keep up with them. Ottawa or not. I mean, it's the toilet bowl of the CFL. And you know what? Let's not pile on Edmonton and Ottawa right now without leaving Hamilton out of the mix.
Well, this is what I was going to say. July 13th, Edmonton Elks at home, Hamilton Tiger Cats. This could be the one.
Yeah, beautiful. But let's look at the schedule a little closer than that. You've played paper, rock, scissors. It is Edmonton, Ottawa, Hamilton, all facing each other in a little three amigos here over the next 3 weeks. So, and two of those teams are going to have buys worked in there, and Edmonton doesn't. They get to go into Regina, and
that's not going to go well.
Well, it's not going to go. It's the last team they beat, of course, at different QBs.
You know what's terrifying looking at their schedule, and anyone who says I should have done this before you on there, if they don't beat the Ticats, let's say that they lose to Ottawa for the reasons that you've named, then they have the Riders in Saskatchewan, which is a tough game. If they lose to Hamilton, at which point they would be 0-6.
Yeah.
Their next 3 games are then against the Bombers, the Lions, and the Bombers. So this team could be 0-9 relatively easily.
Yeah, let's look at that Hamilton game, the 0-6 game. That will be what? The 20th loss at home in a row where they just don't win in Commonwealth. So as bad as Hamilton is, maybe, you know what? Maybe the football gods are finally going to smile down on them and be like, okay, this will be the one. Here you go. Still 1-5 with that murderer's row coming up. It's, of course Chris Jones is in the hot seat.
Yeah, I will say this. I've committed. I'm not as much fun as it might be to just drive myself to games. I'm not doing it. But this year, there was this part of me that was maybe it'd be fun just go see some friends in Regina, use some of my few remaining points, I miss being on the road, but like,
Oh.
no, I'm not. Zero chance. Like, I wouldn't cover it. I would just go to a Stamps game there. Just
How
for the
fun would that be?
It would be a lot of fun. I know. I considered it, but I'm not doing it. But if the Elks have still not won a home game by the Labor Day replay, I am coming to Edmonton for the Labor Day replay, and we'll
Wow.
just have a great time. Hopefully, they give me a Tesla like they did last year.
Hopefully you let me drive it again. That was awesome.
For
Not electric car guy?
context, last year I always rent a car so that I don't put the miles on my own car when I drive up to Edmonton. For the Labor Day replay. And last year, I got it to I think it was a thrifty car rental, and the guy was super apologetic. And I was like, all I have is a Tesla, man. I was like, yeah, man, give me this Tesla. And like, you're not supposed to let other people drive it, but I imagine the statute of limitations is over. Jerry definitely drove that.
You
that
totally did. You totally did. And when I wasn't driving it, I was laying myself out on the hood taking pictures of myself on it.
It was great.
What a fun thing. No
I
wonder.
was really obnoxious with that Tesla. Yeah, I'm not a rich man, but I felt like one.
Okay. And I'm not a smart man because I got in that thing. I started fooling around with the big display there. It like shows all these like colors you can pick on the car. So I'm like, hot pink, here we go. I press the button, I run outside, close the door. I'm like, okay. I seriously thought this thing was gonna like turn color in front of my eyes.
So did I, though. I don't know what that was to this day.
So I would have I'd be like, yep, you know what? Sell my house. I need
That
one.
would be sick if there was a car that just changed colors. Okay, let me just try to be a podcast host here. They drew 32,000 for the home opener. Are they doing that? Are they consistently going to be above 20?
No. That was you know what that was in my mind? That was this city saying, okay, we are granting you guys a reprieve. You know, it has been 2 hard years. You changed the name of our team on us and haven't won at home since you did that rebranding thing. And you know what? We missed football. That was the longest offseason I think there ever could have been in whatever this current format. Because they had a bye in week 21. So they were out, you know, as long as can be. It just felt like everybody wanted football back. Of course, the Riders were in town. Let's not forget that fact that, you know, those guys come out of the woodwork. And you know what? Bless them. It's great to see. But I don't know if they account for 12,000 in the stands. So people in the city wanted to come out here, you know, and just say, hey, here we go. And what do the Elks do? Run into a wall at the goal line. And you know what? That was it. You know, it's summertime now. Kids are out of school. You know, people have a lot of excuses not to go to a football game. As we saw on Sunday, it was, I don't know what, they probably announced 20. It was well under half that. It was, and you know how I can tell? Driving to the stadium, how easy it is as I get a few blocks away and maneuvering my way around and getting to my parking spot. It was way too easy.
It went off a cliff, and I recognize that, like, you know, people are really focused on that 17,000 or the 18,000 number in Calgary, but like, that was a legitimate 18. Like, I will give them that. They didn't lie about that. And I honestly, like, my only issue ever with Edmonton is that I have an ex who's currently lives in Vancouver, but is a huge Edmonton fan. And we're not at the point where I've like moved past all of it. So it's like I still want Edmonton sports teams to lose for that reason.
Stop the presses. There is one big Edmonton Elks fan out there.
I don't know how much he cares about the Elks, to be fair, but it was like particularly during the hockey playoffs. I was like, oh no, the Oilers can't win. But I mean, I'm like, that's the extent of my like resent towards it. But like, I honestly, like, I have a great time every time I'm in Edmonton. Like, I genuinely love it as a city. But like, the reality is, like, last year, if people thought that 18,000 numbers, I don't know what they were announcing at games last year, but I have not covered in Toronto anywhere as empty a stadium as I did for those. Because I think that they played before Labor Day. Like, I don't know. Labor Day replay couldn't have been that bad, but there were some ugly games. Now, one of them, those games, there was like a 3-hour rain delay where Commonwealth, I don't know if you remember, the press box was raining.
Yes. Yeah, there's still a giant stain on the ceiling tile right above where you were sitting. So
yeah, it was wild. Which, like, again, I work at McMahon, so I'm not making fun of Commonwealth. I like that stadium, but it does worry me. It does worry me, and to be honest, like, again, when you have that competition from an NHL team that has two of the most exciting hockey players in the world, like, the Elks are going to be easy to ignore. That's what stresses me out.
Yeah, in a brand new bar too. Right, Rogers Place is brand spanking new, still sparkly and shiny. Commonwealth got a facelift a decade ago now. It's not like they're going to bulldoze the place and build something new. That's why Calgary's almost in a better situation, because that place has to go. Sooner or later, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to get a brand new.
The Dinos are moving out of McMahon. Like, the university team is like, peace, this isn't good enough for us.
Like, yeah, it's about time.
Yeah.
If anybody has money, it's a university, right?
Yeah. Well, and apparently the province for our new arena. How'd that go over in Edmonton?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think this has been great. I love that. I was like, maybe Gerry is going to come in and like, I'm pretty worried that the Stampeders are about to fall off a cliff. But with the Stampeders, it's like, well, all their players are hurt. So I think that if fans are mad about it, then, like, guys, you're missing that professional sports are hard. Yeah. But with the Elks, I don't know. It's weird to me that sort of one of the marquee franchises didn't go out and recognize that they needed a quarterback. I honestly was going to ask you about Jarrett Doeg, but I wasn't sure how to say his last name, and I didn't want to acknowledge that on a podcast. Is it Doge?
Well, we say Doege, but and he answers us, so let's go with that.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to seeing him in a starter's role?
You know what? Yeah. Because it's time. I mean, they've hung on to Taylor Cornelius a lot. They wanted him to be successful. Obviously, not just because he's it would be the easiest thing, but let's put it this way. Trevor Harris said it best when he was still in Montreal last year, and just asked him, well, what do you think of this Cornelius kid you're going to come up against? Because I mean, he kind of mentored him a little bit in the beginning during his time here before he was so unceremoniously sent packing. And you know what? It might have been one of the best things to happen to Trevor Harris. Who knows?
Well, did you see Naylor's tweet about how, like, the Red Blacks and Elks records since releasing Trevor Harris?
Yeah, wild.
Yeah,
amazing.
Don't release Trevor Harris.
Yeah. So, anyways, he explains it like this. He's like, Taylor Cornelius is basically who you would create in Madden football if you were creating a quarterback, right? He's got all the tools. He should have it all. Obviously, up here is where it's lacking for him. And you know what? To be fair, he didn't have that veteran Mike Riley type to sit down 2 years on the sidelines and watch play and learn from. He was kind of thrown into the fire, just baptism by fire, right? Like, get out there and you're going to learn the hard way. But the growing pains, you know what? Over the 2 years, yeah, and here we go. 32,000 show up to see this, newly rebranded Edmonton team, and I mean, they fall on their face and can't get it over the goal line when it counts. So, you know what? It's not all on him, certainly. You know what? Stephen McAdoo, as offensive coordinator, certainly has a lot to atone for. And of course, the buck stops with Chris Jones. So, man, we've been through their schedule and what's to come. I guess stay tuned for the fallout and what's going to happen if these guys don't start turning it around for their head coach right now.
So, two things. I created I'm not playing Madden right now, but I created in FIFA a Danny Austin, which I'd never done before. But I literally, like, I don't know how it happened, because I wanted him to be a 6'2" Canadian like me. Instead, he's a 5'5" Cameroonian man.
Perfect.
He's this little man, and I'm just, like, stuck with him, and I can't change who he is. And I just keep requesting transfers because my coaches won't play me. It's horrible. It's horrible.
That's on those coaches, because they gotta recognize the fight that's inside you, Danny.
Man, do they ever? But it also makes me feel like I'm actually just, like, a problem child. Like, I'm one of those people in sports that, like, the media just hates because I think that I'm better than I am. But I mean, I'm 5 foot. I got little man syndrome. I'm 5'5". Also, in 20 seconds, is there any hope for Trey Ford?
Oh, we haven't even seen him. He got bumped down to third string. Didn't even dress last week, and with what transpired with Kyle Loxley getting the boot, he's going to be in. He's going to be dressed at least. see him as a third stringer behind Cornelius.
Cool. Well, I'm going to request that you do this all the time because you were
Let's-
great there.
Let's do it.
I was saying you're not like you don't really use Twitter the way I do, so like I'm not even going to direct people really to your Twitter account.
No, I do not. No.
But you know, you cover the Edmonton Elks for the Sun and the Journal, owned currently by Post Media, and yeah, you're the man. This is hilarious. Appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
I had to live up to the billing, so hopefully
That's great. It's great because like I honestly, my whole plan was because I'm trying to make this not just be a Calgary podcast.
right.
We're still recording what have you, just so we're both totally aware. So I didn't want to just come in and make fun of Edmonton and like make fun of the Elks. Like I have nothing to make fun of when it comes to Edmonton. I love Edmonton. But then you did it for me. So
Yeah, really, I'm just the guy in the front row seat of the stand-up comedy show because they're doing it all themselves.
I love it, man. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you to Gerry again from, well, I guess he's my colleague up at the Edmonton Sun and Edmonton Journal, covers the Elks, is one of the best in the business. A little bit less interested in social media than I am, but, you know, check out his stuff. He is the best. And John Bender, former Stamp, important part of our little football community here, Calgary. Watched the Grey Cup with him last year. Had at the time of my life. He's a good pal and has provided us with, you know, new decorations for our little studio here. So very grateful. Gonna look a little bit more professional, I think. So thank you, and of course thank you to Fraser and Fig. I talk about them all the time. I think these guys are the best. They're here in Marda Loop. If you're looking for our charcuterie and cheese box, which who isn't, look for these guys. They are the answer to your question. They got ready to go cheese and charcuterie boxes curated with local and artisanal ingredients. They got 4 sizes, legitimately any occasion. They got a size for it. The boxes all come with meat, cheese, dried fruit, fresh fruit, nuts, olives, pickles, carrots. Selections also vary, so you're not getting the same box every time. They rule. I don't know. As I said off the top of the show, fun week in the CFL. You got Edmonton and Ottawa on Friday. You've got Winnipeg and Montreal on Canada Day. And then on Monday, the Lions and Argonauts, you know, 2 top teams in the league right now, arguably. So lots of fun. Guys, we appreciate you. We're going to be back early next week. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really, really appreciate all your guys' support. You guys are the only reason we can keep doing this. So thank you for listening. I'm Danny Austin. Have a good one.